defining organization groups is a huge selling point of VMware's AirWatch. The reason behind that is because this is why we only have one management console for all of our assets and all of our groups. So first of all, if we look at this at a very high level, we have a SaaS environment that has multiple tenants. We keep all of our tenants separate with organization structures, just like you would with the hierarchy or directory tree inside of Active Directory. And because of this, we have a top-down or parent-to-child security setup. Now, this parent-to-child setup allows information to flow from the top of your environment down without information moving up the tree or lateral. And the reason why we have that type of multi-tenancy parent-to-child relationship is to keep information locked down to certain groups. If we're looking at the big picture of an AirWatch environment, we want to keep our companies separate. If we're looking at a specific company, we want to keep our departments and users separate. You want to have your sales team have different data and access than your IT ops team. So if you look at some of the features of multi-tenancy, we're looking at scalability, encapsulation, and inheritance. Scalability, we want your company to be able to grow inside of this console and you'd be able to add new departments as your company grows. Encapsulation, each one of those departments should be isolated. They should not be able to talk to other organization groups. We want to keep everyone honest, and we want to keep lower level administrators from being able to push down or have access to content that's too high for their access. Meaning, if you have a lower level administrator, they can only manage, say, your sales department, whereas a global administrator would be able to manage your entire company. Inheritance means your global level administrator can push settings down to your lower level admins that they cannot change, such as requiring a passcode or requiring certificate access. And that way, lower level admins have restricted access and higher level admins can push down settings very easily that flow down through your entire environment. Take a look at this screen here. This is an example of a directory tree here for our organization groups. We have a company level at the top. We have our North America and Asia for our different locations. And then we have corporate and retail for different departments. Underneath those, we have executives, sales, operations, line of business. This is where our users will live. And most of the configurations we're going to assign to where a user lives. We don't really want to put too many items up high because it takes away the granularity of being able to assign attributes to lower levels where users are identified. So each one of those squares here are an organization group. Each organization group can contain a profile, application, compliance policy, content, users, administrators, branding, globalization, terms of use, system settings. All of those items can be encapsulated into one of those organization groups. In fact, you might say that there's multiple AirWatch deployments right there in this tree. Each one of those could be their own AirWatch deployment. That's exactly how we define them, and that's exactly how it's structured. So if you want to spin off a second AirWatch deployment, you just create a child level organization group underneath your company level, and you can just spin off another branch and have maybe a second environment or even have a testing environment that's not associated with your current production environment. All right, so as a review, what would be a good way for a company to structure their organization group tree if they would like to enroll devices by location and use case? Well, the way we would have this structured is just as you saw here. We need to have very clearly defined organization groups that separate entities. Now, it's up to you if it's location, but if you do have different locations, they should absolutely be in separate organization groups because they're going to have different localization, they're going to have different content, and different access. So make sure that you don't just have one organization group, have a series of organization groups split out by location, use case, or departments. What are some of the benefits of enrolling devices into a structured organization group hierarchy as opposed to enrolling all devices in a single group? Well, if you have a single group, everyone's going to have the same access. You've just basically pushed everyone into one room in your house. Think of your house as your deployment, and think of your rooms as where your users live. So instead of having the whole family in one bedroom with the same access, let's split people up into their own rooms, give them their own access, and that way you can give the kids their access, you can give the parents another access if we're using the house analogy, and everyone is happy. Last thing you want to do is just group everyone together and give everyone the same access. You're going to come across problems later on down the line. Now, you don't have to necessarily have 100 organization groups. You could maybe get by with 3 or 4 starting out, but then make sure you have a plan to escalate and grow as your company grows as well.